Hello and welcome back, and today we've got a little something different for this channel. A customs video. A while back I received this Bulletman, which was a 2023 JoeFest exclusive. I did not personally attend JoeFest, but my friend Will from Wilhelm Toy and Hobby grabbed one of these and sent it along to me. Will has a great affinity for 1/18th scale figures, and he covers them regularly on his YouTube channel, which will be linked in the description of this video. Go check it out. When I received this Bulletman, I thought it would be pretty cool for him to have a vehicle, since he has his origins in action figures from the 70s and 80s, and those toy lines always had vehicles for the figures. And I think I found something that may work. I came across this plane in one of those cheap generic soldier sets that you see sold at different discount and closeout stores. You know, they have that generic soldier force or some other kind of generic branding on them. I saw this a while back and thought it was pretty cool, so I picked it up. It's a very anachronistic looking plane with the prop and the open cockpit, but at the same time it's got this big engine on the front, and it's got these sci-fi looking guns on the wings. So I thought this would be pretty cool to repaint into a vehicle for Bulletman. Sort of a bullet plane. After I started recording the video, I discovered that this plane is actually a knockoff of a Chap May toy. Of course it is. Chap May sets are a favorite of knockoff toy companies. You can find knockoff dinosaur and animal sets in discount stores around the holidays, and I also see them quite often in gift shops at aquariums and zoos. So my plan is to disassemble this, repaint it in black, red, and silver to match Bulletman, and I also picked up these Bulletman decals from Cotswold Collectibles. So after I paint it, I'll apply a few of these decals to finish it off. First, let's do a test fit and make sure Bulletman is going to fit inside the cockpit of this plane. And yes, he does. He sits in there nicely, as long as you remove the jetpack. And you may ask, well, why does Bulletman need a plane if he has a jetpack? Well, there's probably a limited amount of fuel in this jetpack. It's probably not good for long distance travel. So when he has to go on a mission far away, he hops into his bullet plane. Next step would be to disassemble this so I can get it painted. And the great thing about cheap toys is they come apart pretty easily. So I think I can just snap the guns off these wings. Yes, I can. And then snap off the propeller. And there should be some screws underneath, right here, and a couple in here. So let's get those out and see what we've got. Okay, this was only held together with 3 small screws. So I was able to pop apart the top and bottom halves. And once those were apart, I was able to pop out the tabs on the engine block and pop out the wheels. So this is going to be a pretty simple repaint, I think. And you can see this actually has some pretty nice sculpted detail on it for a discount store toy. There's some pock marks in here, like it's seen some battle. Rivets in the metal plates. So I think this is going to look really nice after I put a decent paint job on it. We are on location in my backyard because the first part of this custom is going to require spray paint. And you always want to use spray paint in a well-ventilated area, preferably outdoors, because the fumes from the paint can cause some people to get sick. I know chemical fumes give me headaches, so I do like to do this type of work outdoors. The paint I'll be using is this Rust-Oleum gloss finish that bonds to plastic, which is exactly what we want. It's the 2x Ultra Cover. I masked off a couple of areas that I do not want to spray red, namely the wingtips, and I just used painter's tape to do that. I also put some painter's tape inside the cockpit. I don't want to get paints in there because I don't want to take the chance of having any paint rubbing off on the figure when he's sitting in the cockpit. And around the edge of the cockpit, I masked it off with some of this fun tack, also called blue tack. This is sort of a silly putty-like substance that people use to temporarily adhere things to one another. I use that because it's difficult to mask off rounded or curved areas with tape. So I just put some fun tack in there and molded it to the shape, and hopefully that will do the job. And the trick with spray paint is to have patience. You don't want to hover the can over one area for too long to try to get it completely opaque the first time, because the paint will glob up. I usually do just quick strokes across what I want to paint, let it dry, go back, put another layer, etc., until you get the opaqueness that you want. Alright, I'm going to let that dry, and we'll work on the other parts. The bottom of the fuselage with the pontoons luckily does not have any cheap paint applications on it. It's all just molded in solid black, which is great. I'm going to keep this piece the same color that it is without having to paint the whole thing, and I'm just going to detail it with some red and silver highlights. To detail it, I'm going to use some paint markers, and there's a couple of different kinds that I use. This brand is simply called Painters. You can find this at Walmart, and these are relatively inexpensive. They're only $3 to $4 a piece. They come in a wide variety of colors, and they have a variety of tips as well. You can get a wide, medium, or a fine tip. So I can usually find exactly what I need by looking at these Painters markers, and these are in the craft section at Walmart. And Sharpie also makes paint markers. I believe they might be a little more pricey than the Painters ones, but sometimes I'll grab a Sharpie if I need one as well. And those paint markers do give you some nice color and some nice detail. Here's a repaint custom that I did using those paint markers. This is a Final Faction figure that I simply repainted into a 1990s era looking blade to go with my Marvel Universe figures. Now for these parts, I'm also going to use that silver paint marker. Most of these parts are going to sit on the red fuselage, so I think the silver is going to stand out nicely when I reassemble the plane. Here are the guns and the engine block after I applied the silver paint markers, and I think they are looking pretty sharp. These are going to be a nice contrast against the bright red on the top of the plane. And I also did the prop. I decided to leave the circle on the outside black and just do the center prop in the silver. Give it some contrast. And I just put a little detail on the bottom of the plane. We've got a red stripe there to break up the black, and then I put some little silver bits on those struts and on the top of the pontoons. All right, here's the top of the plane, looking pretty sharp. I gave this about 5 coats to get it to the opaqueness that I wanted it over the course of about 3 hours. And I let it dry out in the warm sun. And then after it was done, I gave it a shot of this clear coat just to seal it up. Now I'll take the masking tape off this, and I think I'm gonna use my silver paint marker to fill in a few details on this, just to break up the red. All right, I added some black to the tips of the wings and the tail fins, and just a little bit of silver in those spaces on the wings. I was going to do more, but I think that'll be enough once we get it together and I get the silver parts added and the stickers. That's gonna look pretty good. So let me put this back together and I'll add a few of these decals to it and we'll see what she looks like. Here is the finished product. And I am really, really happy with how this came out. Those decals fit perfectly, exactly where I wanted them. On the wings and on the tail. I think the red and the black and the silver work really well together, and they do match Bulletman himself. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. Pretty easy repaint custom to do. Only took me on and off a few hours while the coats of red were drying. I was using the paint markers on the other parts. So yeah, fun project. Really happy with how it came out. And this is gonna look really good on the shelf. And don't forget to check out Wilhelm Toy and Hobby for all your 1/18th scale news, reviews, and custom projects from the community. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.